You have to pop up as fast as you can. You start sprinting, and you have to push the sled, like a heavy sled. You have to push it about 10 or 15 yards, and then you go around, and then there's this giant hula hoops rings that are like maybe 5 times the size of regular hula hoops, and or giant. I don't know what they call them, but like that's my vision of it. But
I was gonna say I can picture it. So
yeah, and they do a figure 8 running around it, and then once they get to the top of the second giant hula hoop, they go around that, and then there's like they start sprinting over these like they have these dummies on the ground, so you have to pick your knees up. And then you have to bear crawl under like this. I don't know what it is. It's like a shader, and you have to bear crawl under that, and then sprint the last like 20 meters or 30 not meters, 20 or 30 yards to the finish line. And that I feel like that would be a better drill to have in the NFL Combine, because that shows that that shows your reaction time. It shows you how, if you're explosive, what you can do. Because in an actual play, especially in the league, I mean, there's going to be a lot of you're going to be making a lot of cuts here and there, especially if you're a receiver or a running back. You're going to be running routes, or you're going to be able to block. So that sled is probably a simulation of blocking somebody.
Yeah,
that's probably what it is.
Yep.
So I feel like that would be a more crucial drill to have instead of doing the bench rep test. I mean, that might be. I mean, it's completely different than doing the bench rep, but maybe I don't know. It's traditional for the NFL Combine. It's been going on for decades now of having a bench rep test, and I mean, people are so used to seeing it. So.
People are used to seeing it, and they like in these tests to be able to compare it to what guys have done historically and come up with sort of like athletic comps that way. So that's another reason that it's stuck around. I don't know. I think it's gonna maybe as soon as next year. I think it's gonna be out.
And where do you see? Let's see. Where do you see? So I'm assuming that you're going to be at. So are you currently at Indianapolis right now, or are you going to be covering it remotely?
I'm not. I'm actually home. I got a baby here, so I'm going back and forth to our offices in New York, but I'm pretty much covering it from here. And I actually know a lot of coaches are making very brief stops there. I know someone had mentioned Sean McVay is really only going to be there for like 24 hours this year, and it's going to be. I'm curious to see who ends up staying and who's there for a while, because the fact that they're moving the workouts to prime time is also sort of throwing off the schedule of some of these guys that they were used to, or they had gotten used to over the years. So it's good. We have 4 writers out there, and it'll be interesting to see what they come back with.
Oh, exactly, because I know you guys work together as a team. So, and then congratulations, by the way. You said you have a baby, so like I just wanted to say. Good luck with
Appreciate
that.
it.
I just wanted to say
Appreciate it.
Oh,
yeah.
Best of luck to that, because I know that. I mean, actually, I do not know how that goes, so that's why I'm saying good luck.
There you go.
But yeah, I'm just saying maybe for future purposes, like I'll just take my notes from you, and then obviously notes from my dad, how he raised me. So there you go.
There you go, Mark.
But yeah, so anyway, at the same time, when you think of all these drills, for example, like, how we were making fun of some of these players, how they would come in unprepared and everything for the combine. Let's see. I noticed, like, this is another thing, because, when you look at all the draft classes and everything like that, so you look at all positions, it looks like this year's class of QBs are pretty talented. But as far as the running backs go, like, the only talented, like pure talent I can see is Jonathan Taylor. I mean, he was one of the best running backs in college football this past season. And all these other names I'm seeing on the list, I've heard of these guys, but they're nowhere near the same level as Jonathan Taylor.
I like Taylor. I really like DeAndre Swift from Georgia as well. I think he was sort of more of a part-time player at Georgia for, they've had tremendous depth in that backfield for a while. I think he's a guy. I think him, Taylor, and Edwards-Helaire, the LSU guy, are my 3 favorite backs in this draft. And I think all 3 of those guys, I think what's going to be interesting with Taylor is to see how he grows as a pass-catching threat at the next level, because I think he has that potential, even though they didn't use him a ton at Wisconsin. That's just not how their offense is built. But I think he has the potential to get better there. And, I guess I put J.K. Dobbins, the Ohio State guy, at sort of the fringe first round top 4 running backs here. I really only think one of those guys ends up getting into round 1, though, just because, as we've seen over the years, I mean, the running back position just is not valued like it used to be.
Yeah, and my biggest concern about DeAndre Swift is that his ball security level is pretty bad. I noticed that he basically has a low carries per fumble mark going off his stats, and I remember watching him play. Yeah, that's the biggest like concern for him. I feel like that's his biggest weakness. But everything else though, like he has good balance. He reads well off. I mean, he makes good cuts. He has really good vision. He has good hands. He can block. So he does everything else well. It's just like his ball security is the only problem, in my opinion.
Yeah, I like the fact that when he changes directions, he doesn't like gear down at all. That's what I look for in running backs. And not to mention, I mean, all those guys really have good vision, and they'll be fine with sort of the mental processing part of the game. But those are the four guys on the running back spot.
Yeah, and DeAndre Swift, like that's a big guy. I mean, they have him listed as 5'9". He weighs 215, so that's really big for somebody that's 5'9". I'll just tell you that.
That's how you want to be built.
Yeah, especially in today's terms, especially in the NFL, man. These guys, they take beatings, man. I mean, I felt bad for Miles Sanders. I mean, he had a great season, but Miles Sanders was taking some beatings, man. Especially after the Eagles were beat up throughout the season.
Oh yeah.
But what else are some of your biggest takeaways leading into this combine?
Look, this wide receiver class is going to be just phenomenal. I mean, it's fun. I'm looking at this list. I mean, there's honestly there are 12 dudes who I could see getting first round consideration here. And a lot of times we look at this stuff and you get excited about certain guys and it's like, oh, I guess I kind of got too worked up. But I think there are 12 guys who are legit first round prospects in this receiver class. And the funny thing is going to be is I wonder how many teams are looking at this receiver class and saying it's so deep. Even though we love this guy in round one, we'll just wait until round two, round three, and get a guy who we think is a first rounder at that point anyway. But I love Jerry Jeudy. I really do. And I do like CeeDee Lamb, and I like Henry Ruggs. You got to love the speed there. But I love Jerry Jeudy, and I love the Arizona State kid, Brandon Ayuk, who's he's a little bit raw. He's a JUCO transfer. He sort of played in N'Keal Harry's shadow 2 seasons ago, but I mean, he is a unique build. I think he measured 5'11", but he's got some ridiculous 6'6" wingspan or something like that. And I mean, he is a beast after the catch, and he's also a really good deep threat as well. But this receiver class is just really off the charts. And then the offensive tackles it's top heavy. But we've had a lot of bad offensive tackle classes coming to the league the last couple of years, and this one is. I mean, you got. I'd say you got. Let's see, 7 at least first round candidates here, and probably 4 of these guys end up getting top 10 status when it's all said and done.
Yeah. Also, I can see some big hopes into. Sorry, excuse me, I got bad allergies. I don't know why. I'm always clearing my throat. That's why I have to mute this thing. I have to mute my in whenever you're talking. But anyway.
Yeah, no worries.
Yeah, but I was going to say that Devin Duvernay and Colin Johnson coming out of Texas, those guys are really talented, especially Devin Duvernay. He might be the fastest receiver coming out this year. I
mean, it's incredible. It's Colin Johnson's guy who came out last year. It's oh, that's probably a day 2 pick. And now it's he's a forgotten man because there's just so many good receivers in this class.
Exactly, and plus, Colin Johnson, another thing is, Texas kind of went off the radar. They went off the grid. Everybody thought they were going to be a severely talented team whenever they played against LSU, because that's the only team that played LSU the closest besides Georgia throughout the season.
Yeah.
And to see how they played, and then it's just weird, during the bottom half of the season, you just saw how it seemed like Texas just fell apart, and then it just seemed like that traction that they were getting just disappeared.
Yeah. Yeah, it's Texas is. It seems like they're on the verge of getting back to where they're supposed to be, but not quite there yet.
Exactly, and plus with their 2 top receivers being out, I mean, they're going to have to rely on some of the younger guys, so it might be a completely different ball game coming into next season. But either way, I just think this combine, I feel like it's going to be a good one. I mean, every year there's always somebody that does something crazy. There's somebody that gets close to breaking the top performances. For example, I don't really see anybody taking out John Ross's 40 record. I mean, that's a low 4.2. I don't think that's going to happen anytime soon. Yeah, there's no way. And I'm just saying, but when you look at the records and everything, performances, each year, there's always somebody, like I said, there's always somebody that does something ridiculous. And then when they get to the NFL, most of those guys who do something ridiculous in the combine end up being a ridiculous talent in as a rookie or within their first 3 seasons, and then they make a name out of themselves. So like,
Yeah, and it is, especially if you're looking for like late round picks or undrafted guys. Like the workout numbers do sort of, it can put guys on the radar.
yeah, it really can. It really can. And I'm just thinking. I'm just thinking from this point, like you said, these scouts are going to be out there. They're going to be evaluating all these guys to see if they have what it takes to play in the National Football League. And who do you think has the potential to be like a top, like for example, like for each position, like say it's a tight end or say it's a linebacker, who do you think has a good, who has great potential to start or any position? So who do you think has potential besides Joe Burrow that could start as a rookie?
Well, it's Chase Young, the Ohio State edge rusher, and right now everyone's assuming he's going to Washington. We'll see if they would rather trade out of there. They have spent some picks on edge rushers in recent years, but I mean Chase Young's the best player in this draft as far as all around goes. He'll be a star. Isaiah Simmons, the Clemson linebacker, or is he a safety? Or he's kind of, we hear a lot about positionless football, and you're looking for guys who are versatile. I mean, Belichick always talks about how you got all these, these offensive freaks coming into the league, these 6'4" guys who run like, 4.4 40 times. And it's like, who's going to cover them? Well, I mean, it's going to be, your Isaiah Simmons. I mean, Isaiah Simmons can, line him up at linebacker. He'll be an absolute force as a blitzer. Or if you want him to cover, I think he can cover basically any tight end in the league right now. Not to mention, you could probably have him play some, some pretty rangy zone looks as well there. Those are the two guys who I think step in immediately and are just like absolutely like just game changers for a defense. And I really do like Derek Brown, the defensive tackle from Auburn, who I don't want to say he doesn't have a high ceiling, because he absolutely has a high ceiling. He might be an all-pro guy at the next level. He might not be as unusual as Simmons and Young, who really are. Generational talent is too much to say, but they are unique players. Derek Brown's really good. Defensive tackle seems to be a really deep position every year in the draft, but Derek Brown he's a game-changing guy, and he's a guy who his reputation is like just really good football character type of guy. So someone's going to get him and just get a really good player for like 8 to 10 years.
Well said right there. Do you have any last-minute thoughts you'd like to add regarding this combine coming up?
No, I mean, look, it's funny that the stories are always what happens in like medicals and interviews. We'll see some guys light it up, and we'll see, unfortunately, I'm sure we'll see a guy or two sort of fail the pass-fail test here. But the combines interviews, especially with a guy like Tua, and we'll see what whispers come out, because obviously the interviews and the combine stuff, the medical stuff is what I meant to say. The medical stuff is not for, it's not for public consumption, and you sort of have to rely on the Albert Breers of the world to sort of tell you what they heard about it. But those are sort of the big stories to me. If I was going to say that the position I'm most fascinated with in this year's draft, it's not necessarily the best, but I think the safety position is really interesting, because safeties are becoming more and more important in the NFL. Everyone's looking for these sort of like Swiss Army knife type guys to plug into their defense. And Grant Delpit from LSU, who I absolutely love, his tape was not good last year, or probably had something to do with some injuries. And the teams are going to have to ask themselves, do we trust it was the injuries? Do we think once he's 100% and in the league and we can take care of him with our with our trainers and all that stuff, he might be a star. He's, to me, like a big risk reward guy. And a couple other fascinating guys are Xavier McKinney, who sort of played all over the place for Alabama. Kyle Duggar, I believe this school is pronounced Lenore Rhine. A small school guy coming up, big time hitter, and I think he's a potential game changer at the next level too. But and Antoine Winfield's good. I might be dating myself here, Mark. I don't know if you remember the days of Antoine Winfield, the best tackling cornerback in football for Minnesota and for Buffalo. But his son's in this. His son's sort of a do everything safety here out of Minnesota, Antoine Winfield Jr. I'm fascinated to see what he becomes at the next level too.
You know what? You're sure right about that. I remember seeing an article about how that his son is actually going to be participating in this, and then he has the potential to be a great talent, just like his father was. But it's going to be hard to live up to those expectations. But hey, anything's possible, right?
You got it.
But yeah, once again, I enjoyed this interview with you, Gary. And then, like I said, like I had to get you back on again, especially with this new equipment. So now, like I said, it's gonna sound like a radio station. And it's always a pleasure talking to you, man. Like we can go on and on all day. But I remember you telling me you had a